Hello, this is Vic. In this video, we'll be working on login system. That is, I'm going to create a login feature in our simple login portal. Here I'm removing this checkbox, and also I'm going to update this button and all the input field names, form, and a method is post. We should have a method attribute for a form, and this button is input button. Previously it was an anchor link. I'm updating it. It's an input type submit, and the value is a login. That's it, and I am removing this closing anchor tag. Okay, after reloading this page, this button is not displaying. By mistake, I have added a hidden input field instead of input type submit. After reloading, we should see this button. Okay, and the field names, everything is correct, and I am making this as a single PHP block, so we can add our code in this PHP block instead of creating a new PHP block. First of all, I'll add a PHP validations, PHP form validations. For that, I'm going to use this statement, these lines of code. I'm copying it from register.php and pasting it here, and I'll close this if block, so we won't get any errors. Here the input field name is email, so I'm going to copy it, and it's a type email, post email. Email field is required. This is a message, and we should display this error message in the form. Also, I should check the password field, password, and a password field is required. Input field name is password. Next, we should display this message, so I'll copy this errors PHP block for displaying error message. I'm reloading this page, and if I submit the form, here are the errors. Email and password field are required. I'm filling this email field, only password error, and we should display this email's value. I'm adding a value attribute, and we should add this PHP block. Here we have already added this code, so I am reusing from register.php, copying this statement and pasting it here. If we submit this email field, in case of errors, we should get this value back. Here is some message. Here is a value. Next, I'm going to add a CSRF token validations. First step is creating a CSRF token. Next step is adding that CSRF token to form as a hidden input field. This is a code for adding CSRF tokens to form, input type hidden field. Next, we should check the CSRF token, that is CSRF token validation code, and also CSRF token time validation. These two if blocks, I am copying and pasting it inside this if block. Okay. And also, if there are no errors, empty errors array, I am going to work on our login logic. Here I am going to check the login and the login credentials submitted by the user. Now if we submit, here we have an error, undefined variable session. That means we should start a session with this function, session start function. Now if I submit, it's working correctly, and I'll update this CSRF token. I'll modify the CSRF token, so we should see the error message after submitting the form. Problem with the CSRF token validation, that means CSRF token is working correctly. Next, I am going to work on our login logic, that is checking the login credentials after the form submission. First of all, I am going to use a select SQL query to check the submitted email ID in the database if it exists, and returns 1 as a count if the email ID exists, and and the rows equals to 1, number of rows in our database equals to 1. Then I am going to check the password. Here I am going to reuse this code from our register. Previously I am checking email unique or not in our database, so I am going to use this logic. Instead of displaying errors block here, I'll check the password. For now I'll just add a simple comment, compare the password with password hash. Password hash, I am already selecting the records based on email, so I'll check this password, submitted plain text password with this password hash using password verify function. Post password, this is a submitted value, and the hash is a value that I am fetching from the database, that is users table with email ID. I am fetching this password hash, but I am just using a row count method to get these results. I had to use fetch and PDO fetch associative. And here I can use a result password. This is a password hash from our database. If it returns true, I'll create the session. So after creating the session, I'll redirect the user to dashboard page. Echo. For now, I'm just simply echoing a message user valid. So we can test this, and we should create the session. Create session. I'm reloading this page, and the username is the test email user valid and create session. Here I'm only checking email ID, so I should submit the email ID, not the username. I'm going to add a username functionality later, and I'm going to remove this message, and I'll create the session here. Before that, we should regenerate the session ID for security purposes. I'm going to use this session regenerate function, session underscore regenerate underscore ID for regenerating session ID, and I'll store this information in session login true, and the ID and the timestamp. I'm going to store all these details. ID is result ID. I'm already fetching these details from database, and a session last login. It's a timestamp. Timestamp that the user has logged in based on a time function. I'm going to assign this, and after that I'm going to redirect the user to dashboard page or the members area page. You can define this URL here. I'm going to use a header function for redirecting the user location index.php. Here I'm using index.php as a members area page, else will display an error message. Errors. I haven't added any errors, so we should add all the proper errors. Errors, email and password doesn't match. Combination not working or doesn't match. We can use any message, and for this, if the count is not equal to 1, we should display user does not exist in our database or something like that. And I'm checking this else blocks, and for this else block I'm going to write a message, error message using errors array. Email not valid. That means email doesn't exist in our database, so it won't work. It won't return 1 as a result. we should submit the email, not the username, because this input type is email. Password field is required. We should submit the password also. Email not valid. We don't have this email ID in our database. So I'm going to use the value that we have, and with a wrong password, email and password combination not working. With the correct password, it's working. Here on the login page, it's working. Now we should check the login on our members area page, that is on index.php page. Here on this login page, I'm going to print the session so we can see what's in the session, what's stored in the session. I'm going to print the session inside a pre-tags so we can see it in a array format. Neatly formatted array, print underscore r, session, $_session and semicolon. If I reload this page, we should see this session, CSRF token, login and ID, last login. These are the three values I'm storing in session. Next, what I'm going to make is I'm going to make this login system work with username and email. For that, I'm going to update this type as text instead of email, and all the validation error messages, instead of email, I'll make it as username/email. And the input field name is email, and the message I'm going to use username/email. Here also username/email. And final error, that is also username/email not valid. Okay, if I submit the values, we should see these error messages, and we should update this code to work with username also instead of email. Here I am checking the email column, so I'll add a logic to check whether the submitted data is an email or a username. If it's an email, we'll check the email column, otherwise we'll check username column. Filter underscore var, I'm going to use filter underscore var, and a validate input email, post email, that's input field's name. And another attribute for this filter underscore var is filter validate email. It checks if it's an email. If it's an email, it returns true, otherwise we'll execute else block. And the SQL, I'm appending the SQL to the where clause. It's an email. If it's a true, that means if it's an email, submitted input is an email. If it's not email, it will be username, and the column name is username. This will be appended to the SQL after the where clause based on the condition. So it's done. Now we can log in with username or email ID. It will work for both username and email. I'll test it out with the username test and a password test. I'm entering a wrong password, so you can see this wrong message, error message, and a wrong username email not valid. That means it's working properly. I log in with correct login credentials. It's logged in. I am redirected to this index.php page, and if we go to login page, here is login information, so it's working properly. Next, I am going to create this logout functionality. We should log out after login. I should create a page for this one, and I am starting the session, and the simple command is session destroy. That's it. For logout, these are the two statements for logout, and should redirect the user to login or register page or the index page based on your site structure. It's a login. Here I will load this logout.php page. Here I am on index, so I'll link this to this button, logout. For now, I'll open this page, logout.php. Here you can see this session is destroyed and created CSRF token session again on loading this login page. We just created a simple login system and a logout system with a CSRF token production and a username, email, login. It works with username and email. This is a code for the login, username and email login, and also password verification. This is to verify the password, this block of code, and for creating CSRF token, that is generating a CSRF token and displaying errors. This block of code is for displaying errors, and this is for adding CSRF token to our form, and this is a logout code. Next, I am going to check the login on members area page. For that, I am creating a new PHP file with the name of checklogin.php. On this page, I am going to add a code for checking the login. I am opening a PHP block and closing it. Session start, and I'll add 3 if blocks. If $_session, if is set and the value is equals to true, I'm going to check this condition. If is set, session login, and session login equals to true, then we do nothing else. If this condition doesn't becomes true, I'll redirect the user to login page. Else, redirect user to login page. Here I am using header function, header, location, login.php. Same with the other two values, that is ID and last login. I am pasting it 2 times. Here it's ID, and for ID it should be not empty. We won't be comparing it with a true. It's a not empty session ID. Next is last login, and this shouldn't be empty because this will be a timestamp and a last login. I am going to load this file on index.php, that is on members area, and I'll make it as a single PHP block instead of 3 PHP blocks. I'll use require underscore once line. I'm going to copy it and paste it, make it as check login. It's not in includes directory, so I'm removing this includes. If I go to this index.php page, we should be redirected to login. It's not working because of headers already sent. So what I'll do is I'm going to move this header and navigation files below these 2 requires. If I reload, it's redirected. I'm logging in with valid login credentials. Here I'm on index.php page, and I'll go to login page. Here you can see these values, session values, login ID and last login. I'm able to access this index page. If I log out and try this index.php, it's redirecting me to login.php page again. So it's working properly. Log in again, and if I access login page or register page, I'm able to access these pages, and we shouldn't allow that to happen. We should redirect the user to dashboard page when logged in user tries to access login or register page. For that, I am creating a new file, if logged in PHP. Here I'll check if the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, I'll redirect the user to dashboard page. For that, I'm going to check the current page with a server super global base name and a server PHP self. This will return the page name. If I am on login, it returns the login. If I am on register, it will return the register. Here I am loading this if logged in PHP page. Undefined variable server, it's a typo mistake. This should return the file name if logged in.php. It's working correctly. I'll load this file in a login, so we should see login, and if it's on register, we should see register. And I'm moving this header below these two required lines, otherwise we'll get a error if logged in.php, and copying it, pasting it after the connection, and I will move this header includes file. I'll reload this login. Here you can see login.php, and on register.php you can see register.php. That's a file name. And if the file name equals to login.php or register.php, if the base this returned value equals to login.php or register.php or log register.php, then we'll check user is logged in. If the user is logged in, we'll redirect the user to members area page instead of accessing a login or register pages. I'm going to check this session ID. If it's a set, redirect the user to members area page. Here in our case it's index.php. Redirect to dashboard page or members area page. Header, location, index.php. If I check it in browser, I should be redirected to index.php. If I access login.php, it's redirecting me to members area page. It's working as expected. We successfully completed this login and registration part. Hello and welcome to creating registration and login system. Here in this video I am going to take you through the demo of the registration and login process. Here I am registering a user. If the user already exists, it will display an error message, that is Ajax username checking, username and email. It works for both of this, and if the email exists, it will display an error message and user can enter different email available, so user can sign up with this email and mobile number, password and repeat password, and also Google reCAPTCHA. We are going to learn about all these steps, all these features step by step. Register, user registered, added user's meta information and added user registration log entry, activation email sent, and user has to click on the verification link that we have sent to the user's email. Then only user account will be activated, otherwise user won't be able to log in. For clicking on this link, you can customize the email, account exists and account activated successfully. All these things are done. Activation email sent, account activated. Your account activated, please log in. User can log in into the account with the login credentials that is submitted while signing up. Here user can use username or email, logging in with the password. User can update the profile from edit profile page, username and first name, last name, gender, age, and user can choose a profile pic. And all this information can be accessed from the front end, that is from profile page based on the username. That's a clean URL and bio, Facebook link, user's bio and a Facebook link. Here I am entering as a facebook.com and a Twitter profile, twitter.com complete URL. You have to enter the complete URL for all this and blog website. If you want to update the password, you should enter a password, repeat password and confirm password. File uploaded successfully and profile updated. If I check it in front end, that is username is Vivek1. So it's not displaying any information. By default, you have permission system. You will learn all these things. I am just enabling all of these. By default, it's disabled. Update permissions. Here you can see all this information is being displayed. And if I access another user, it's admin user. For admin, we have different privileges, and you will know about all these roles while developing the application. I'm logging in as admin. Here you can see admin menu, and you can update single preferences, and this information will be displayed. Presently, not displaying first name and last name. For updating, it's displaying all this information, and you can hide any of these social media links with the permissions, that is user preferences. This is for the user 1, Vivek1, and previous user is the admin. So you can see the admin navigational bin in the login portal. Here I don't want to display LinkedIn, so this LinkedIn button will be hidden. You can see. You'll learn all these things, and there are a lot of other hidden features. You are going to learn about all this, and reset password functionality also. You can reset with a username or email, and you can log in with username or email also. You will learn all this, and email is sent. Should be there in a couple of seconds. Here it is, and I am using SendGrid SMTP service, and it's a username and an email ID. I am going to update the password. You are going to learn all this step by step. Change password. Now we can update. Now we can log in into the system. Here, user will receive the password update email notification with the new password. These are the features you are going to learn in this course. Take action and join the course.